what I thought I could just do, and I'll take off my headphones, I'll just show you guys like a quick reel of some more recent work on the digital side.
Cool.
And, and then so much of my work is in film, feature film, and in television. And Nelson, because that's also something that you're focused on in TV, I'm happy to talk about it.
Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go here. So this is just a recent reel, and tell me if you can hear it. Someone just give me a thumbs up, okay? It's a new reel we're just fiddling with. I'm gonna stop the share. That's just like some more recent work.
I mean, look, a bunch of you are entrepreneurs and have your own companies, and uh, I, I mean, what a terrifying choice, right? I feel like I'm in like constant crisis mode, but at the same time, I couldn't imagine at this point doing anything else. And I mean, I will say it was not like, growing up in Oman, when Suraj and I've known each other for a long time, it's not like, we were growing up in an environment also where a lot of people worked in the arts, that careers in the arts were really celebrated per se. And, if you've gone through the Indian system of schooling, you understand that if you were not good at school is when you would get into the arts, apparently. Like that was like your fallback option. And so it was definitely not necessarily the thing, even when I came to undergrad in the States, that, I thought I was going to go into banking, that I would be an investment banker and then I'd be a painter on weekends. And I really wanted to go to art school and be a painter. But of course, my parents, I don't want to be stereotypical, but they, you understand it eventually that it comes from a place of fear of how can we help you. But, I studied economics and painting at Northwestern. And then after that, but my internships kept changing. They went from banking to consulting to advertising. And then, I had a personal tragedy that happened in my family, which was quite life-changing. And, I, at that time, took a class called Women in Indian Cinema. And it was just taught by a visiting professor from Bombay. And it was the first time I watched a Satyajit Ray film, who's a Bengali filmmaker. And, it's this, his first movie was this incredibly poetic film about a very poverty-stricken family kind of trying to survive, and it was just, it had the music of Ravi Shankar, and it had like this, beautiful, profound story that made you smile, it made you cry. And then at that point, I recognized the power of film in a different way. It wasn't just entertainment. It wasn't just like the pure Hollywood of the 80s and the 90s that we had grown up with. It wasn't just like action films. And, so then I moved to New York, and, it was really hard. And a lot of you are also international, to get my visa sponsored. So especially when you're in the arts. And so I remember my first job was at Def Jam at the record label, right when Jay-Z had just become the president of Def Jam. But it was also a few years after 9/11. So Universal Music stopped sponsoring visas. And then I went to a hedge fund. And then they also changed their visa policy. And then I got a job at HBO. Like, it was like my OPT was running out. I was on this timer and it was ticking. And HBO gave me an offer, essentially to be an assistant to these creative directors, and I was so excited. I took it, and then they were like, oh wait, your H-1B visa expires before, I mean, your student visa expires, and then only 3 months later your H-1 can start, and there's 3 months you can't work, and this is an entry-level job. We're going to retract the offer. And so they did. And in the meantime, I started working in the nonprofit space. I was just consulting, and I convinced this small nonprofit that worked with providing prosthesis for kids in developing countries, in India and Haiti and Colombia, and training for doctors. I convinced them that I would, get a lawyer and pay for it if they could put their name on my paperwork and let me work for them. And that's actually how I got my visa sponsored in the States in the beginning, which in many ways, like, why am I going all the way back and telling you all of those things? I'd say that it's a lot of those experiences that in many ways inform my work now. And then, because then things start to move pretty quickly, it's like, then I started making videos just like by myself that went viral, and this is how long ago it was, is that it went viral by going on like Yahoo and AOL. Like that was the time frame we're looking at then. And, and so then I just kept making things because I just figured I didn't study film in undergrad, and the Strand bookstore and, watching the DVD specials of my favorite directors when you had DVDs, when you watched DVDs, was like my early film school. And then eventually I got into NYU, and I was doing a dual master's program, and I did my MBA at Stern with a focus on media and entertainment, of course, and social impact and innovation. And then I got my MFA at Tisch at the same time. So I finished, and while I was in school, I started working with a Hollywood actor and, produced 2 feature films while I was even in my 3rd year of grad school, which now when I think back on, I'm like, I have no idea how I managed on such little sleep, because I really, really love my sleep now more than ever. It's the only way to survive. But my background after grad school has been a mix of being an executive and like working at MTV or Condé Nast or Nylon, while being a producer of features that were going to Venice and Sundance and Berlin. And then but at that point, I again had to realize I didn't actually want to focus on producing so much or being an executive. There's so much I want to say, there's so much I want to do and make. And at that point, it was really hard to get people to trust me to, but you're a producer, how can you direct? And I was like, no, I studied screenwriting and directing, and there's things I really want to make. And, those opportunities were not necessarily coming. And so ironically, I started a production company to focus on writing and directing, to reframe like how the opportunities were being crafted for me as a creator, because I was being met with a lot of resistance. And it didn't matter that at that point I had been on this committee under the Obama administration for entertainment executives and creators. It didn't matter that I had an MFA or an MBA, or that I had like other screenplays and I had directed commercials and music videos and made incredibly, 73 Questions, which is a series I produced, which is that, for Vogue, was like incredibly viral and still continues. And so, I had to start a company, not because I wanted to run one, but frankly, it was never my dream to be a founder or like to have a company, but to actually just give me the freedom to find my own space in, an industry that likes to put you in boxes.
So, yeah.
I mean, it was, I wanted to keep building on the relationships I had with other filmmakers who I was producing for, of course, and to create that community and to continue that work, but to also really highlight the stories that are really important to me. And, as someone who's Indian, who grew up, like Suraj, in a Muslim country, we've traveled a lot of places. there's not a lot of people that necessarily look like us in terms of gatekeepers or filmmakers in traditional Hollywood, and their story, you know, global stories are incredibly important to me. And that's why I had to kind of make sure that, you know, when I think of our slate of projects that we're doing, they are representative of that vision, you know.